SorareData Strategy Show. I'm Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare, joined as always by Sean Newsham, who you can find as PSU Fans too. This week we are talking about preparing for America and Asia competitions. I was going to say this summer, but they start in like 2 weeks. America kind of has already been going on thanks to Liga MX, and Argentina's back this week. We have some CONCACAF Champions League. Sean, how excited are you to get a lot of cards back in play?
Yeah, we're just talking about it. My strongest area is my Asian and American teams. So getting them back in play is pretty important for me personally. Like that's why I had such a good summer last year, because I have the best cards in the region compared to Europe, where I just don't. I was actually looking through it this week, and I don't have the most elite cards there, but in America I definitely do.
Yeah, that's certainly the upper parts of my gallery are all America. I have some decent Asia cards, but not what I have in America. So being able to have these guys, particularly an all-star, back is just it's been so long, even though it's been like a month and a half basically since the MLS like playoffs ended and all that stuff. But thank you to everybody who has joined us in the chat for the watching us live here. We've got a whole bunch of people here: Bob Flynn, Josh Forth, John Adams, Philip McTaggart, I think that's new, football economist. Terry, I like the Misaki was early, and Looking for Food is a hilarious little YouTube name there. But thank you to everyone joining. Like I said, we're going to talk about America and Asia in a little bit, but Sean brought up this topic to me this morning. He was like, wait, here's something else I want to just talk about. And it came up because of a reward you got this week where you were like, I don't know what this, this one seems okay. And like you dug in further and you were like, oh, this one's actually pretty good. And your legitimate question was like, or how many times have you like seen a reward and you were like immediately happy about it? And to be honest, Sean, I had to look back. Like none of them like came to mind. And there were basically like 2 or 3 instances. I'll even call them 2.5, where I was like immediately happy. And it was less because I was happy that they were awesome cards, and it was actually because I wanted to buy them, and I just like hadn't gotten around to buying them, or they were just too expensive, and I like happened to win them. It was like one of those situations where it was like, maybe I can win one of these cards one day, and I like actually won one, and like that's why I was happy with the rewards.
Yeah, so who were they? What were the ones that you? I have 4. I have 4 that
Wow.
I looked through my list.
So the first one was Georgie Mihalovic, who I won last year, and I remember talking with Black before the MLS season last year, and he was like, "I think Mihalovic is underpriced. Like he's U23 for a while. He's good. He's like good. He's probably on set pieces for Montreal." And I'm like, "No, you're right." And I just like kept putting off buying him, and then he started playing well, and it was like, ugh. And eventually I just got like priced out of it. And I don't even remember where I finished, but I like finished somewhere that like there was no thought of me that I was like going to win Mihalovic. And it like popped up and I was like, oh, sweet. All right. Yeah, I'll take that. But so the other 2, one was Christian Burgess, who was like a tier 3 reward. He's a center back for Royal Union, who's like tops of the Jupiler League. I actually bought an Anthony Morris, and I was like, I'm just going to buy Burgess to like get the defensive stack, and I just like wasn't doing it. And then literally the next week, I won him, and I was like, oh, awesome. I have since sold both of them though. And the other one was Kasper Shabilko, who we were just talking about is probably dead for this season. But Shabilko was a card I wanted to buy. I had like numerous friends who bought him, and early in the season last year, he crushed. Like there were some Champions League matches. I remember he scored a brace against Atlanta, and I was just like, I can't believe I don't have this guy. And so I bought one, and like a week or 2 later, I won one, and I was like, all right, like I went 2 weeks ago, I would have been really excited about this card, but I actually wasted money now to win it. But those were like the 3 that, looking through my gallery, were ones I was actually happy about.
Yeah, I said it's kind of funny too, because like I've won divisions, you've won divisions, and it's not those cards. Those are not the cards that we've been, because there's realistically, if you win a division, there's like one card you're happy with, and
So
if you don't get it, you're not happy.
I'm glad you brought that up because like I was looking, like I won Carlos Heel for finishing first in All-Star. It was All-Star D4 back then, All-Star Rare. And it was like, I remember winning, and I was like, I think it was Zora was like tweeted like congratulations on your Neymar, and I'm like rewards hadn't even come out yet, so nobody knew. But then it was like I could win Neymar. He's right. Like, oh my god. And then you open up Carlos Heel, who was like the best card in America, but like I was thinking of the best cards on the platform, and so like it was awful. Like actually feel disappointed about winning Carlos Heel, but it like at the time I was just like, oh okay, and like he's obviously been an awesome card to have, but like when expectations are so high when you finish first and then you don't get like the highest one, um, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I realize how absurd it sounds to like complain
No,
about
it's
but
true. I looked through. So yeah, like so I've won one of the ones of mine. I finished first and I got the card I wanted. Which is you're gonna laugh at because like it wasn't a card that should have been like super exciting to be first, but it was, and I wanted that card. So yeah, but it's true. Like so I won Lewandowski. I was like not ecstatic about it because like I could have won Mbappe, I could have won Haaland, and I really wanted to sell the card to generate some ETH. And then Lewandowski's just not really a card I can sell because he's just so much better than every other forward in Champ Europe, and I have major holes there, so I had no choice but to keep it. And it's a great card. Like obviously, I'm so happy I won it, but it wasn't. I opened and I was like, whatever. Like I was like, come on, Mbappe or Haaland, and then didn't get it. But the 4 for me, and I'll go from front to back. So I won Glebov super rare this week, which is like way better than I even envisioned. I wasn't as familiar with him as I should have been because Russia, I just generally stay away from to some degree, but I'm trying to get more involvement there because there are some good U23s there, especially like Kangwell that we talked about previous weeks. But Glebov is a DM that takes sets that has 2 years additional of U23 already placed for his national team. What more can you want from someone?
right.
And I didn't even win him as a U23 card. It was a Challenger Europe card. And like looking at him, like he's legit. Like I can plug him in almost every week and play him, and I'm very excited about it. So that was first one. Second one is I won Kosi Tanny as a like mid to low level tier 2 super rare in I think U23. I think it was U23. But I was looking at him like, why am I getting this as a low to mid end tier 2? I mean, now, Tanny's rare is selling for more than his super rare did at the time I won it, I think. I think the super rare probably was like 1 ETH at the time I won it. Now his rare is close to 1 ETH. But I knew that card was going to go up, so I was like, this is fantastic. But
and
like
Glebov was a tier 2 also, wasn't he?
Glebov was a tier 2 also. Yeah, so like I got like a legit playable tier 2 that's like legit really good in U23 as a tier 2. I'm like ecstatic about it. And then the third one is I finished first in Challenger Europe, either D3 or D4, don't remember. And I got Gravenberch. And at the time, I really wanted to buy a Gravenberch. He was worth like 1 to 1.5 Ether. I really wanted one because like I view him as like the long-term midfielder that is sustainable, that can be really good in Champ Europe as well, and like can turn into a Kimmich type of player. Like not saying he's going to be Kimmich or anything, and like they're not exactly the same build, but he's the guy that I viewed as like someone like that. So I won that. I was ecstatic. Yeah, Josh, that was part of why I'm also happy with Glebov. Like Rostov's fighting relegation, but I'm not really worried about him getting relegated with them if it happens. So I was.
I knew
like,
Josh would know him immediately.
Of course. And then the fourth card was I won a low end tier 3. I think it was in like global. Like I finished like 350th or something in like global 4, and I a Cade Cal, who at the time was like I won it and it was worth like 2.25 because it was a forward card and it was back in the day like when he was starting. Yeah. And I really wanted that card. I was like, that's a fantastic reward. So those are funny. Here's a funny story. It could be one of my most expensive cards too. I was pissed when I won Anthony.
You were. I remember that.
I won Anthony super rare for winning U23 D2, and it was a T1. But like the other T1s, I had a really big midfield hole. Like I needed like a Kaku or like a Gravenberch super rare or something like that, and I really had my hopes set on that. Or like Carlson, I think was like even in the tier 1 at that time. So like there were great tier 1 super rares, and at the time it was when Anthony was not starting every single game and he was like rotating in and out. And I was pissed. I won Anthony. I was like dejected because I looked at it as like I really need a elite level forward or depressed. But now arguably he's probably one of my top 5, definitely top 10 most valuable cards. Like I don't think I have a non-unique that's worth more than him. I would say, let me look at my gallery.
It reminded me when Nellis won Kaku, and he was like, he wasn't like disappointed. Let me rephrase. He wasn't upset, but he was just like, oh, okay, like he's pretty good. I actually went back. He gave himself a hard time on a recent podcast about like how dejected he was when he won it. And I went back and I was like, was he really that bad? And he was like, this guy's okay. It's all right. And I remember he like immediately tried to sell it and there were like no biters. And now the dude is like a top 3 U23 midfielder.
Exactly. It's interesting because it really does happen. And like, I'm looking. So non-uniques, Lewandowski's probably 3.5. I'm pretty sure Anthony's worth more than that right now. So I have like Gonzalez.
The super rare?
Super rare. Super rare Anthony's got to be worth more than a Lewandowski rare. So I have Gonzalez super rare, Vonnegut super rare, Anthony super rare, and Gravenberch and Gill. I'm pretty sure Anthony's worth more than all of them. Probably. So I think he's my most valuable non-unique card. Yeah, there's no way Anthony's rare is selling for like 1.7. There's no way his super rare is under like 5 or 6.
Yeah. Yep.
So I legit, like, I think the only cards I own that are worth more than an Anthony super rare is maybe Matsuoka unique, Hatanaka unique, Takuaka unique. Those are probably
basically uniques.
Yeah, they're definitely uniques, definitely not rares.
How do you feel about not getting Mike Tresor?
Josh, I actually think I have bought the cheapest Trezor super rare so far because I had Pires buy it for me at night because it was at like 3 a.m. So I bought it for me and paid him like 10% to buy it so I didn't have to wake up.
So sleeping fee.
Well, I mean, yeah. Here's a question: would you pay $100 to not have to wake up at 3 a.m. and possibly not get a card?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, Pires, here, I'll give you like 10% of whatever I paid. Here, enjoy. So he was happy to do that. But Trezor, I watching this game the other day where he subbed at halftime. If Trezor's in that role he was in yesterday and he like starts there next year, he's gonna be an absolute smasher.
Dude, because Trezor and Ugbo is what I was like hoping for this season, and then it didn't happen. And I was like, I'll just have to wait.
That's fine. I can deal with it next year. I think I have like 9 Gank super rares now. I have like 9.
Surely you should be winning games or tickets to a game somewhere.
If they ever have like some like how many points can you get from Gank players in your gallery, like I gotta produce pretty well.
I mean, there's enough talk of like trying to start achievement things that you'll fit right in on that one.
Yeah, I can't deal with any of the rewards conversations anymore. I reached out to them the other day because things just don't make sense. I don't care about if there should be more cards being given out, if there should be less cards given out, if there should be this amount on this week, blah, blah. I don't care about any of that stuff. To me, when I want something that makes sense, you and I and everyone else, most people, obviously some people just can't grasp anything. So like that won't happen. But like you and I should be able to sit here and be like, this is what the rewards are this week. This is what they are probably going to look like next week. So, for example, last weekend, there was, let's say, 80 teams playing, and there were 20 D2 U23 cards given out. This weekend, there's an additional 15 or so teams playing, and there's only 16 D2 U23 cards out. And every single region this weekend is giving out more cards comparatively to last weekend, except for U23.
Yeah. U23 looks like it was broken this week.
It doesn't make sense. And I'm not saying like, give me more rewards. I want more rewards. I want to understand what the deal is. Why is it going down? Like, I don't understand.
I would like more rewards.
What?
I would like more rewards.
Well, yes, I would obviously love more rewards. I won't fight about that, but I just want to understand. Like, for example, Asia and America start next weekend. Is Global going to go down? Are we gonna have less cards given out in global? Because that should be laughable, right? Like I just said that and you laughed at me, right? But if I tell you next week that it actually happened, you would believe it, right?
America's not really back next week.
Correct. I'm talking next
yes,
week.
I know what you're saying, and I don't think we're going to see an increase as much as we think we should.
No, and that's the thing is like I don't really care. Oh yeah, I guess MLS is the following weekend.
Yeah,
this weekend.
It's CONCACAF Champions League.
Yeah, even so, like Asia this upcoming weekend is I don't know if Korea is playing. I assume Korea is playing, but I'm not positive. But like Japan plays this weekend. We have 20 teams that are playing that we're not playing this weekend. There not being a significant amount more rewards this upcoming weekend compared to this weekend does not make sense to me. Mm-hmm. But the fact that I literally could tell you that, you would laugh at me. Okay, so Korea's back. So you have 32 teams next weekend that are playing that are not playing this weekend. So rewards should increase a good amount due to that coming up.
Yep.
But the fact that I will say, like, all right, Laird, rewards are going to drop by 20% next week. You're going to laugh at me, but then you're also going to be like, yeah, that's actually possible. That doesn't make sense to me. So my main issue with rewards is I want a understandable view on how it works. I want to be able to understand on a week-to-week basis what to expect. And like, yeah, so like I got a response about something with like sometimes they give rewards for less games. You should, like in a midweek, like last midweek, like I won a reward, like that Glebov I won was with a really mediocre score. It was not a good score. People should have something to aspire for in short weeks as well. Like they should still be able to win a card. Like, yeah, you're not gonna be able to win as many cards, but like I should still be able to win something of value in a midweek where there's less games. And that's fine if that comes off of the top end of like a big week. Like if you remove, let's say, 3 to 5% of your rewards that you were going to give on a big game week to give it on a small game week, that's fine. I'm not arguing that. I just want to understand a week-to-week comparison, be able to be like, all right, there's going to be less rewards this week than there is next week because there's more teams this week. That's all I'm asking for. I want to be able to understand how rewards are distributed. And the fact that literally not a single person on the platform, and this probably also includes the people that work for the platform, understand it. And that's an issue for me.
Yeah, I think the difficulty is that, like you said, it just doesn't make sense. Like we would understand if rewards were too high one week.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, not that they need to tell us like, hey, we bumped the prizes this week because we felt like it.
Correct.
But the difficulty is that we look at the bump in prizes and we're like, oh, okay, so here's the new normal. And then we go back to like the actual normal and we're like, wait, why is it so much lower? And it really only takes them to be like, oh, we're bumping this week. Don't think this is normal. Or we're going to do it every so often. Like they told us previously, and obviously never ended up implementing it, that they were going to like, reward people who, throw some extra tier 3s to people who didn't necessarily, who came under the minimum for what you need. And it was like, all right, but like, if this was the actual solution, like, oh, we're just going to reward more, then tell us that so that we're not expecting that to be the correct distribution. And then when it goes back to being smaller, we're like, why is it smaller?
Correct. And if you tell us certain things, like if you tell us there's not enough of a data point for certain people and that's why there's less cards this week, fine. I can understand that. I just want, if I asked, for example, there's, let's say, 20 people that have posted in chat today. If I asked every single 20 of those people to give me an explanation on how rewards work, not a single one could do it. And that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's just a situation that needs addressed. And yeah, like I'm fine if you're like, well, we're going to give out, there's Champions League this week. It hasn't been around for 3 months. We're going to give out a bit more cards than we normally would, and then it'll drop back. Fine. That's fine. That's a perfectly understandable and realistic reason. Or like, hey, Asian America cards, we gave out too many, which I think a lot of the issue too was last year at the beginning of the season, they gave out too many cards, which I get. Because if you remember, like they were giving out like 60 cards in D2.
Yeah.
And like every region was like that. So like if they came out and said to me today, hey, Sean, we gave out too many cards last year in the beginning of America and Asia seasons that we did not have the amount that we should have right now to give cards out. That's why the stuff is low. I get that.
Yep.
I can wrap my head around that. I can be like, all right, hey, that makes sense. When new cards come out, that will reset the cycle and will be something like that. I have no idea if that's the case or not. Like, I mean, I'm pretty certain that that was the case in terms of America, but they knew that issue going into Europe. So, like, why is Europe fluctuating that much? It just,
Yeah.
I would like some clarity on that stuff.
Yeah. No, I think it's reasonable, and I think the only reason why it's reasonable for us to ask that is that they've told us they're going to be transparent about it.
Correct.
And so once you sort of promise transparency, like people are going to need it. And we just don't have it yet. And like I almost feel like if they had never said that, we would have been like, all right, we just the rewards come out and we're like, okay, that's what they are this week. I mean, you and I have this DFS background. We don't know what the what contests are going to be before they come out. And they come out and we're like, okay, that's what we're playing.
I will say I don't agree with that fully. I think if they needed to be transparent, they need to be transparent about this. If they came out and rewards for a full game week were 100%, and then the next week they were 50% of that, that would still be like something I would be like, that does not make sense. It makes literal no sense. So I think it's something they have to be transparent about, and something, whether they said they were going to be transparent or not about it, they needed to be transparent, or they don't need to be transparent. It just needs to make some sense.
Right.
It needs to be logical. It can't be something that just makes, like, you're just sitting there like, what is this?
That's fair. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk about Asian America. Obviously, there was this volume run up. We've seen MLS prices just skyrocket, although your 1 ETH Ferreira seems to be getting closer to half an ETH Ferreira. But
I think people are just doing that because they like you better than me, as my stance on that, which, I mean, understandably so. Like, I get why people would like you more than me. So
I have no horse in that race in terms of what Ferreira's value should be. I don't have him. I'm not looking to buy him. So, I mean, if he gets cheaper and cheaper, then certainly you have to consider it. But that's
what
not.
point do you buy him? Because I have a number that I'm pretty sure you would buy him at.
I think if he got to 0.5, I'd probably buy him.
That was the number I was going to say. I'm pretty sure if he was at 0.5, you would buy him. If you got to 0.5, I'd probably buy 3 or 4 of them, to be honest.
I was just about to say the only reason I wouldn't buy him is because you snapped up all of them there. But I think there are probably more than enough people who bought below that. But like anybody who bought at 0.8 is not going to sell at 0.5 at the beginning of the season. So I will say that we have pumped Jesus Ferreira quite a bit on this podcast. And there seems to be a slight misunderstanding in terms of why we like him. And there's a very big difference. And I feel like we were clear about this, but apparently not. But we think he is an excellent summer U23 forward option because there are just not that many of them.
Correct.
That doesn't mean we think he's like the best forward in the America division. And so there are people who are like, and multiple people have like contacted me like, this is what I have for America for this summer. What do you think about it? Where can I improve? And there's always like some spots and they're like, I don't really love my forward. Maybe I'll go get Ferreira. And it's like, all right, well, do you have like U23 guys set up for the summer? And they're like, yeah, I have a defender. And I'm like, do you have a goalie? And they're like, no. And I'm like, are you going to buy a U23 goalie? And they're like, no. And it's like, well, don't buy Ferreira. Like you're paying like a significant premium for a guy who is eligible in U23 and will be used by people who are playing U23. But you don't need to pay that premium if you're just playing America or just playing All-Star because you don't get any extra points just because he's young. In fact, you're losing points because you're not buying guys who are better scorers and cost either the same or less. Like if you're just playing America, you're comparing Ferreira and Johnny Russell because they're basically the same price. Russell is a significantly better scorer. He's older, but you can play him in 2 of 3, 2 competitions. Yeah, Josh Ford. There you go. Go and buy Johnny Russell then, you maniacs.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying everybody should go out and buy Johnny Russell. I don't have Johnny Russell, but like they're basically this Russell and now Ferreira are around the same price. And if you are not using Ferreira in U23, then they are competing against each other. And simply like Russell scores more and Russell's older. So if you're one of these people like, oh, I'll have Ferreira for 10 years, like, just don't think that way. Like, please, like the platform is around for 3 years. Planning for 10 years from now of utility just seems crazy to me. And once Ferrer is not U23 eligible, his value like just plummets, like legitimately plummets. Like he's good, yes, but he is not like a top tier player in just All-Star and America during the summer.
He is. That's not. He is. He's good enough. He averaged his L40 is 57.2, which is within 5 points of any forward. Like Russell's 4 points better. Like it's not like it's a drastic gap that is absurd. That said, I agree with this opinion. The reason we like Ferreira, and it's still, and this is like, so in our opinions as of today, and this has changed actually over the course of the weeks. So like 3 weeks ago, when I think we had the original Ferreira discussion, it was Alvarez at 1.5, Ferreira at 1, and Tati at 0.6. I think there was a legitimate reason to buy every single one of those guys at those prices, and there wasn't a significant gap outside of Ferreira. I think is just the most consistent with less questions. Now, however, Alvarez is 1.8, Tati is 0.7, and Alvarez is 0.8.
Ferreira's 0.8.
Ferreira is a much better buy from a U23 perspective than he was even 2 weeks ago. Like I would not pay 0.7 right now.
I was gonna say, if you liked him at 1.0, you're gonna love him at 0.7.
Exactly. Like so, I think Ferreira is an even better buy than when we touted him the other week. But from your perspective, I agree. You don't need to be paying the U23 sort of tax to get him. Now that said, if you look at like Johnny Russell, Gustavo Bo, guys like that, it's only, let's say, a 25% difference up to Ferreira. So I don't think it's out of the question to go buy him, but it's not like a no-brainer. I have a forward in America here. This can be the PSU pump of the week that I think is a great buy.
I think it's going to be the same guy I'm about to say as well.
What is the first initial of the first name?
S.
No, but I like him too. I know. So the pump of the week for me, it's actually, I have two of them, and they're
I love that we've now called this the pump of the week.
I told you it's going to be the PSU pump of the week. Every week I'm going to have someone we're going to pump up. And it's always going to be someone I own that I'm not looking to sell. So like you guys can actually like take my point with validity. So I think that there's not tons of good options in America below like everyone's 0.6. There's a big cluster of people that are within the same range that it makes sense. Like I think that these guys make sense. The two people that I think make a lot of sense that could be really, really good this year, and you're going to agree with the people I say, Raul Ruidiaz and Jordan Morris. The Seattle team on paper is so far better than everyone else in the MLS. Like they are significantly better than the MLS. If you look back to 2 years ago, before Jordan Morris left Seattle, his stat lines were very, very good. And he had a very, very strong all-around game as well. Obviously, it's completely murky. Like you see this. These are really strong scores a lot of the time. Now, these guys aren't exactly the best per se players. Like, yeah, like Johnny Russell might be better or like Hulk might be better. But I think they're really good options that are at 0.4. So like the difference from like 0.4 to up to like 0.6 is a decent amount.
Mm-hmm.
So who's yours? Because I know who you're going to say too. And I agree they're going to be really good.
Yeah. So, yeah, Dan Bab has a in chat. Yeah. Sebastian Druizzi, who is with Austin. Like, he doesn't have any MLS cards yet. He came in last season from Zenit. He's a former River guy. Like, he's going to be – I think he's, like, if he was fully minted – like, I think his price right now, the low was like 0.6 of what somebody's asking for, which I think is reasonable. But yeah, I think he's going to crush this year. And there's just I mean, obviously the supply of his cards is going to go up when the new ones come out. But right now, there're just not that many of them. And he scores just as well as any of these guys around him. And yeah, I just think there are plenty of there are guys like that. The funny thing about Seattle is that we've long said that MLS doesn't really have a stackable team. That we have the MLS has really good players that you can use as like one-offs, but like you're not going to do a 5-man stack of any MLS team. Seattle, I think, is breaking that now. That you could definitely do, like Fry, Gomez, Andrade, any one of their midfielders. Like you could do Rusnak and João Paulo, and then Rui Diaz or Morris. Like there are a lot of combinations you can do, and I think that could absolutely be just this easy stack of the season.
Yeah, I think that they're like, I mean, on paper, they're just far better than everyone else. Like you said, like, so the thing is like, Neymar is Black, no, Lodero's not the one.
I didn't mention Lodero.
Yeah, of course. That's the least one I would own. He can still smash. That's just the least one I would own. But Ymar, the reason you can say this is because Ymar is really good.
Really good.
Really good. Like, he generates a lot of stats. And then Rusnak, I think like you get two of Rusnak, Roldan. I think.
Well, I was gonna say Roldan even fits.
Roldan's really good, and João Paulo. I think you get like two of them, and then one of the Morris, Rui Diaz option. You have a really strong stack. Because like if I look on paper, the only team that comes close to them, in my opinion, offensively is New England. And New England's remainder of their attacking options and like midfield and wings are not near as good as this. This is like really, really good compared to the rest of the MLS teams, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not even sure you really want 5 Revs, though.
I agree. Well, actually, I don't know. Well, the issue is you don't want to go buy a Matt Turner right now if you have one.
Right.
And I don't think Knighton's going to be the replacement. Like, I'm pretty sure.
Or Edwards.
Bring someone. Or Edwards. Like, I think they'll bring someone. But I will say Farrell's actually really good. Farrell's pretty solid. Yeah. And Kessler's solid. And then, like, midfield, it's Gill. You have to have Gill. There's no one else.
It's not Tommy McNamara.
Your stack realistically has to be like Buxa, Bo, Gill, Farrell, Turner.
Yep, that's it.
And that's the problem. Like Seattle, you can do like 6, 7, 8 different options of their team, whereas like New England's like pretty straightforward. And then you factor in the fact that like Buxa would rotate out for Bo, and then Bo would rotate out for Buxa. Although they do look to be running.
They seem to have stopped that, yeah.
And we'll have both of them in it this year, so I think it's less concerning. And I actually think so like last year, and this is honestly part of the reason I am probably am at where I am on the forum or on the platform, because I had a really, really good 6-month stretch, and it really like solidified my thoughts on the platform. But going into last year, I thought Gill was the best player in the MLS, while other people were thinking it was like Lodero and Vela and other people. I thought Gill was clear best player in the league to me. And then also I thought Adam Buxa was the most underpriced player in the league and was like a stud waiting to just get fed goals by Gill. So like I had Gill rare, super rare, and I had Buxa 2 rares and a super rare. So and Buxa I think finished second in the league in scoring last year despite missing a significant amount of the season. So but yeah, we should go position by position. I think that's the way to go through the show. So midfielders, like what is your obviously we know the elite level midfielders in America, and what we will end up talking a lot about MLS, but in general, we're going to talk about America here realistically. So like, what is your thoughts on the midfield position in Americas?
So I think if like price doesn't matter, but if you're just like, let me go get the best guy, like it's Carlos Heel, like, and it's not remotely close. Like the separation between him and everyone else is absurd. And so after that, there are like question marks about a bunch of guys. Like I think like Rusnak ranks second here on the sheet. Like I have Rusnak, so I'm like incredibly biased about it. But you and I were talking about this the other day. His range of outcomes is much higher with Seattle than it is with RSL. And the reason that's the case is because he did everything for Salt Lake, and he doesn't have to do everything for Seattle. We don't know if he's going to take all set pieces like he did, but they're also like Seattle should also score a lot more. So like his upside is higher, but his downside is also lower just because we don't know. I don't think it's going to be low. Like he's not going to turn into like a 35-point scorer, but it's possible that like if João Paulo takes set pieces, they still think that Lodero's corpse can take some, then he'll do some, like it just takes away from Rusnak. So then you look at guys like, I think Jack Price is still awesome. You and I have said this for weeks, but like Keaton Parks is like the most underpriced player on the platform for this region. He's coming back from an injury, but like you sent me a picture the other day where he's Maxi Morales like coming up to his thigh. But I think he's like up there. I really like Mihalovic, who I'll admit that I have. But it just seems like Gill is at the top, but like that second tier is full. Like there are a lot of guys you can pick. And so I'm not sure there's like anyone specifically you have to go go get. And I didn't mention Mukhtar, who's like first on the list, because I think he just so overperformed last year that I can't see it happening again.
Yeah, so all right, so we had the PSU pump of the week, PSU sell of the week. I would be moving Hani Mukhtar off of my team immediately. And like, I don't think he's bad. This isn't saying he's bad, but like, Mukhtar is not a massive all-around guy compared to some of these other people. He is very dependent on decisives. So if I look at like last season, like just scrolling through, he had a 20 all-around twice in like the entire season. That's it. Every other game was like 10, 11. Like his all-around game is just not there. He's basically a forward that scored a lot. I do not see how he does what he did last year, in my opinion. Like he could, but like that's just a guy I would not have on my gallery right now. Like for example, like I would take Jack Price over. Jack Price is my midfield pump of the week. I actually prefer him over a lot of those forwards that we just talked about. But Jack Price, I would take over Mukhtar in a second without even questioning it. Yeah. Like if you told me like I get one of these two cards, I would just take, and I can't sell it, I would just take Jack Price.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you can get Price for like 3/4 of the price of Mukhtar.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. Yeah, there's a lot of good options. I think that there are a lot of question marks. Someone that we talked about that you and I both agree with. We both really would want this guy, but we just are a little bit gun shy about going and getting him, and that is Emmanuel Reynoso because of his pistol.
I have him.
For instance. Yeah, but like realistically speaking, like hypothetically, let's say his super rare hit the market today for 1.2. I really want that card. I'm pretty sure you really want that card, but I don't think I can go buy him right now with all the uncertainty surrounding him. Like he is so uncertain to me right now that it is very scary. Yeah, I agree with you on Ring also, John. Ring's solid. Ring just sort of lacks some upside, and
that's my problem with Ring is the upside.
Yeah, so like that's my issue with Ring. But I think that Ring and Keaton Parks, for example, are very similar players. I would rather get Keaton Parks for around the same price due to Keaton Parks being a lot younger.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's a lot of midfield. I've noticed that like in America, like there's good forwards in each league effectively. A lot of the mids are better in MLS, but also a lot of the defenders are better in the other leagues. That's sort of what I've realized. Like I was talking to Black the other day, and he's talking about moving some of his America exposure into like Brazil and Argentina to get defenders. And I think it makes a lot of sense, which we'll talk about next. But yeah, the thing is Gil is far and away better than everyone else. If you don't have Gil in the summer and he's healthy, it's just not fun every week, because it wasn't even like he was just smashing up hundreds. It was that like there was just no failure. And like that's the type of guy that like if there's no like if his failure is 65, are you really killing him with whoever you're playing anyways?
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I'll say that the non-MLS America leagues continue to be underpriced. And that's not to say that like the Mineiro guys are cheap. They're probably overpriced, and River Plate's expensive.
Yeah.
But everyone else is much cheaper.
Yeah.
And so I think, and there's also just like such a focus on MLS in that region that there is like pretty significant edge when it comes to either the South American teams or Mexico, that Mexico tends not to be as high scoring. So if you find your goalie and defenders there, like I think that makes total sense. But there are like definite knowledge edges when it comes to South America that I think people aren't necessarily taking advantage of, and they can easily compete with these MLS guys.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Black said he actually is looking to go at Mexico instead of the other regions. But yeah, so we can move into the defenders. So
I mean, Andy's just trying to get every Lozano on the platform.
Yeah, exactly. Black when they had like Santos had like midweek, Black had like 8 American lineups. Well, no one else could run a single one. But like none of the cards are good. Like, none of the cards are good.
The 195 point podium.
Yeah, like normal weeks he's just like SOL and can't do anything, but it was pretty funny. Yeah, like I mean, this is another thing we've talked about. So people, I think, make a lot of mistakes in general on the platform in the fact that they do not, they don't go out there. people want to buy the flashy players, but the players that really get the job done for you are the defenders.
Yeah.
Like, because they are so consistent and generally put up such good scores that they should be in your lineup. So, like, looking at defenders, I know that this one, so Izquierdo's, he's older. He's 33. But his L40 is 62. He has been under 40 one time in the last year.
That's wild.
Like, that's the type of card that, like, helps you win weeks. Because, like, realistically speaking, like, what you want, in my opinion, to get up near podiums and, like, have good results, you want, like, 2 or 3 guys that are just they're gonna get you, like, 60 to 70. Like, and if they have a bad week, you're gonna get, like, 50 to 60 out of them. And then you have that one person that goes out and rips 100 off that week, which they're the same players. So, like, you just want as many of these type of guys as you can get. And if you get, like, a guy like Izquierdo or I mean, we talked about Ymar. Ymar is a bit expensive because he's at 0.6, but, like, Ymar's L40 is 58. He's 29, so he's still a decent age, and his L40 is 58. This is as much as some of these other guys. Like, we look, Walker Zimmerman's, like, almost an ETH. That's wild.
It's wild.
And so, like, this person has been worse, and because they made a transfer. But, like, Angulo's like 0.29. He's a U23 defender for the next 3 or 4 months. And even when he's not, he's one of the best. Why is this guy 0.29 when you're talking about, like, these other guys? Like, he scored as well as, like, Mukhtar, and Mukhtar's like 0.66, and Mukhtar's like a 28-year-old decisive dependent midfielder. Mm-hmm. It just, like, I think people spend their load too much on flashy players. And if you just sit there and you look at random defenders that score pretty well, you're going to end up coming out with a good option. Someone mentioned in here Leandro Morales. Morales' L40 is 57. He's 30, so he's not ancient. And you can get him for like 0.25. His L5 is 61, L15 64, L40 57. He has played every game. The last DNP he had was in game week 184, which was July of 2021. So the last, like, 6 months of the season, he played every single game. And that was his guys like this are what really get you the job done, because you get enough guys like this that are cheap. One, it gives you options. Let's say you buy 5 guys exactly like that. Like, you buy 5 guys for 1 to 1.5 ETH that are all elite level players. It helps you fill out your America lineup, helps you fill out your global lineup, helps you play matchups so you can prioritize your most important lineups. And then you can go buy elsewhere. Like, obviously, like, 1.5 ETH might not be in everyone's budget, but we're just giving options of people that are like this. Like, there are people that are a lot cheaper than that. Like, Lawless Abubakar is 27. He is 0.13. He's really strong. He actually has great correlation with Jack Price, too. They combined on, like, 3 set-piece goals last year. So, like, there's just people that you can go find that are really strong players that are at least Andrew Farrell. Like, we talked about Farrell. Farrell's pretty strong. He's a good option. There are just people out there that you can go. Your guy, Debasi from Minnesota. Like, is the guy the best player of all time? No, but he's a 52 L40, and he is, like, 0.05. If you buy 10 guys at 0.05, it lets you fill out your America, your global, your D4, your D3, gives you options of who has the best matchup on a given week. It's just so much utility that you get out of it. So, like, I would much rather buy, like, 10 guys at 0.1 than, like, 1 guy at 1 in the event that, like, you're trying to build up a gallery and make things happen from that perspective.
Yeah. No, I mean, just kind of like what we were saying. If you look at this list, this is the Champion America, like, top defenders by L15. There's, like, 3 MLS guys in the top 15.
And one of which is Graham Zusi.
One of which is Graham Zusi.
Yeah.
Like, just go elsewhere and find the guys that, you know, some people are overlooking because they're just, I mean, there's a Ymar, but I don't know. There's nothing, like, sexy about buying defenders. Like, that was sort of the thing that I was looking into, because, like, my own America teams, I'm like, oh, I need some defenders. And you look at MLS and you're like, there's just nobody here that I want. Like, I'm not going to overpay for Walker Zimmerman, but like, I don't know.
I actually had one at one point, but I sold him, I think. And his price is, I would definitely not own him at 0.8.
Right.
I would definitely sell him at 0.8. Yeah, I'm on ass about Barco. Barco's a guy I never would have owned to begin with. I just don't think he's that great, and he's very decisive dependent as well. So I would have sold him probably. Well, actually, I don't know. His super rare compared to other people that score his range at U23 level is not strong. The river move should be terrible, but could also be great because there's a lot of midfield depth there. I know Laird's been talking about in Discord. There's like 8 guys that could
Too
play
much,
teams in
too
their
much depth. It's going to be a
yeah,
lineup nightmare.
it's going to be a disaster if you have them. But like if Barco somehow is like locked in starter, never misses a game for River Plate, the move's fantastic. I just find that hard to believe due to other options.
Yeah, I've been like a Barco hater from day one though, so I'm
Yeah,
like,
so have I.
like I always thought that Almiron and Josef Martinez were the reasons that Barco did anything. Like he was there for like the tap in goals or like the last touch before one of them did something special. And but I mean, he had some good games last year, but I know Quinny is probably just like shaking his head at all the Barco hate. But
No, that's
sorry,
my
Quinny.
exact same thoughts. So here's another price that is interesting. Slonina is like low offers 2. Low offers 2. How ridiculous is that? So, like, I mean, yeah, let's talk about the. By the way, my dog just vomited on the floor. I can see. I know that's like second time in like 2 months. So I'm gonna have to go clean that up. I'll let you go.
About this discussion, I guess.
We'll let her finish vomiting as before I go. So yeah, goalies in America, in my opinion, prices are significant right now. We are seeing I didn't know if we would see it again last year when like Jimmy Maurer was like an ETH. I didn't know if we would see this type of pricing in America anymore. But like Matt Turner's 0.7, Sean Johnson's 0.7. Martin Pace is Martin Pace actually could be a good buy. If he's going to be the starter, he's a good buy. I just am not certain on that. Like Augustine Rossi is 1.1 and Everson is 1. Like I wouldn't touch those guys right now. But like, yeah, like Joe Willis, I think Joe Willis is one of the better goalie options in America. He's at like 0.48.
He's been like underpriced all offseason.
He has been, and part of it's because of his age. But he's someone that I think is valid. And then there's others like I think you can get some goalies in America. Like Andre Blake is 0.87. Like there's just some of the goalies have really priced up. So I'll let you talk about goalie, and I shall return.
I just think you have to go back to the whole, not that like goalies don't matter, but to spend so much on such a highly variant position, like you can make the arguments that like somebody is a good goalkeeper, but it doesn't matter because it all depends on like how the team does. And so like if you think Martin Vandevort is like a really good goalkeeper, like skill wise, he's really good, but the guy averages like 33 points a game. So it's like, it doesn't, you need to separate the real life from the SO5. And I think that when like looking at this list of like, who should I buy? You just want somebody that starts. Like that's how like begin there and just be like, will this team be better? MLS is so wonky every season that like you need to, like there's so much turnover basically in playoff teams that like a team that is terrible one year could turn around and be great. I'm assuming everyone who buys Slonina is thinking that's what's happening with Chicago, but like DC United had like awful injuries in their defense last year. Bill Hamid is 0.4 and like they should be fine. Tyler Miller is 0.36 and you know I'm assuming that that's not higher because people are worried that Dane St. Clair could start. Like that's maybe a little tougher, but like it just seems like all of these guys are too like the separation between the top and I don't even want to call like Miller or Hamid the bottom, but like the separation to the top is too big. Like the goalie prices, particularly in MLS, like shouldn't be this wide. And Slonina makes some sense because he's U23, and if you want to price up Thomas Hasel for the same reason, like I get that, but I think there's too much, and I think Josh said it in chat earlier, there's like too much ageism. And when it comes to goalkeepers, I mean, some of these guys play forever. And so you're like, I don't want to buy this guy because he's like 31. But like Brad Guzan is still playing at these 37, 38, whatever it is. Stefan Fry, whose prices are actually going up a little bit. But like there are there are guys who will play for 1 season, 2 seasons, like Guzan, and there's Tim Mealy on the chart there. Like he's cheap. If the expectation is that you only have them for this year, that's still okay, I think. And I know like everyone's like, oh, I want to like the number of people who like buy a player and keep him and play him for 3 seasons has never happened. Like Sorare is not old enough for that. And so when we think like, oh, I'm going to have this guy for 4 years, like I just think there's no reason to think that way. And yeah, Eloy Room, John brought it up. Like I think he's underpriced too. And like I think Columbus is like the classic MLS team that was like terrible last year. And if they all turned it around, we would have been like, oh yeah, like they're a good team. That's fine. And if you can get Room below 0.4 now, like he could be a top 10 MLS goalkeeper this year. So like, why are you spending double for guys like Blake and Sean Johnson?
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually think, and so here's another thing with America in general that I think people don't understand, and it's kind of counterintuitive to other stuff. For 4 months of the year, 3 months of the year, we have very few goalies. So you need to have like I play in America and Asia, I play D1s through D4s in Asia, America, and global. So hypothetically speaking, I need like 9 goalies a week at the rare to super rare level at minimum, and then more. So like realistically speaking, like over the summer, I realistically need and U23. Realistically speaking, I need like 15 goalies from America and Asia. That's a lot of goalies. Like in Europe, like I do have quite a few goalies in Europe too, but like I could get through with Europe having like 6 goalies in Challenger, 6 in Champ, some in elsewhere. Like I could just have a lot of spread in terms of like where my goalies are going to be. But like America and Asia is the only thing going on. So like you're talking like, let's say there's like 20, 25 goalies in America that are like locked in starters that you're pretty convinced are going to be starters. For me, like everyone's different. Like a lot of people aren't playing that amount of rosters, but like you play yourself D4, D3 in all of those regions. You need probably 10 goalies from that perspective, realistically. Like, yes, you might not own 10, but like you realistically need 10.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think I'm going to I'm not hedging, but I'm going to counter a little bit of what I said previously of like guys like in the 0.4 range, Room and Fry and Guzan. Like, I think there is a reason to pay their prices because you know they're starters. And I think there are enough people who are like, oh, maybe if I try, let me buy Westberg or Bono, and like hopefully I get that right in that situation. Like, I don't think whatever those guys are cheaper because we don't know what their situations are. So I think there is value in spending for what we know. And we know with a lot of the older guys that they're going to start. Like, Brad Guzan is going to start. I don't have him, but like Guzan and Melia were the first 2 goalies I ever bought on the platform. And I was like, I just want guys I know that are going to start.
Mine were Sean Johnson and Hamid for the same reasons. Same reason they were as when I came on. Oh,
and they still are.
The other one was Diop, but I mean,
I have him too.
But I mean, he's now back. He was actually really good because the way they played, he had a great all-around score.
Yeah.
So it's a situation. But yeah, like right now, like if I'm coming in and I'm looking for goalies in America, I'm looking at Willis, I'm looking at Stuver, I'm looking at Hamid. I think Hamid's a really good one to get. Gillespie, by the way, is down like 20% from where I sold him out effectively. And Eloy Room. Like those are like the 3 or 4 goalies I would realistically be going and looking to acquire in America. Non-U23 option would be those guys.
Yeah, I just like Carlos Miguel Cornell is 0.85 average, low price is 0.9. I'm just not sure what you're getting. Like everyone's like, well, he's good. He's got a good all around. They should be better. I'm just not sure you're getting more out of him than literally buying 2 Eloy Rooms.
That's the point. We're talking about utility. Like anyone with a smaller gallery, every player you additionally add, you're adding utility. Like you add, for example, let's say you have Cornell or you have two, not even two Wheeler rooms, because I wouldn't buy two rooms. I would buy like a room and Hamid, right?
Sure.
But like, I can almost guarantee you, if you gave me the room and Hamid versus Cornell over the season, I would always have the better score, like long term, between those two. If I took the best score of the two of them each week, would be better than what Cornell does over the course of the season. But not only that, like if you have Cornell, you're playing one lineup. If you have Hamid and Room, you're playing two lineups. That's huge. That's huge from a utility standpoint. Not to mention, you can pick and choose matchups. Not to mention, MLS has a lot of weird game weeks where there's like 6 games on a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's not going to be as much this year, though. They took out a lot of the midweek games.
Yeah, but I feel like they come in as the season goes. Like they move games around to like those dates and stuff.
I mean, given all the COVID
correct
postponements we've seen, who knows? But yeah, no, I agree.
But so yeah, I think that's good for America. Let's go over to Asia, your favorite region. I actually have a take in Asia in general that like people complain about DNPs in Asia, and I think there are less DNPs in Japan that I see on my lineups than there are in other regions. Because if you are playing the people that you are comfortable with, they are going to generally be pretty strong and play most every game. And I think that is something of valid. But like, yeah, if I'm looking at like Matus Rare, his low ask right now is 1, but that's not realistic. But yeah, like if you look at like the top of the Asian market in terms of like L40, Cecilia is so far above everyone else. Like so far above everyone else. And then DeMeo is second. And I do think they're clear too. But the person I think is a really good buy, there's 2 people, one of which has more risks, and I maybe would avoid for that reason. But for me, I prefer to go into Japan than Korea, because Korea has a lot more, oh, hey, this person randomly left for military service or stuff like that. And I am not interested. I had goalies in Japan last year were pretty stable. Like even when like Oki got benched, he got benched and like didn't come back in. Korea was like, this guy played, then this guy played, then this guy played, then back to this guy, and it was like, I'm good on that. But person I think is a really good option is Lars Veldwick. He's significantly cheaper than all of the other options in Asia, and he scores really, really solidly. And he played every game last year. His last DNP was week 152, which was in April. That was his last DNP.
Yeah.
He had one game where he did not start, and that was 166. I'm pretty sure he had another game where he didn't start. But like he is like locked in starter. His age is not bad. And he was someone that was valid. And then another person I think could be really good, Yuma Suzuki, before he went to St. Truden, smashed. I could see that, John, about Veldwick wanting to leave. I could definitely see that. But in theory, Veldwick could go to a improved team. But that could be a reason why you would effectively avoid that situation. And that will come into the discussion we're going to have. And we talked about Usami before. There is not tons of elite level forwards in Asia. It's really lacking. Like once you get, so Cecilia obviously is elite, but once you get past like Cecilia and then DeMeo, there's not tons of people that average over like 55 in L40, which is a hit. And therefore, like having a Cecilia is really valuable, because when they're playing, there's just not much else that's producing there.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. Like, do you find yourself for All-Star wanting to focus on Asia more than America?
A lot of the time, yes, because a lot of the defenders in Asia are really, really strong. When Asia goes, and like I really need Asia to come back, because like even this week, like you and I were talking about it, and people talk about like if you have a big gallery, you can do whatever. It's not true. If you have a really big gallery, if you have like a 1,500 ETH gallery, yeah, I imagine I can do whatever. I had a lot of holes this week that were big holes that could have been filled. And I think I have a bigger gallery than most people. And like you and I were talking, like you had holes you had to fill that the thing is you can't. That's an interesting thing with the platform though, is like you never get to a spot where you're like, all right, I'm done. I'm good. It's always like, man, I could really improve this. Like I had a situation like this weekend where I have some major holes in global and some of my division 3s, which I try to never do. Yeah. So Philip, if Matus if his average was actually like 0.35, like if you could get one for 0.35, which maybe you could, his last sale was 0.43. He would be the person I would tout here. Matus, I do think improves this year, and his age is fantastic, and he's already produced in Asia in general. His all around scores are really strong. So like he would be the guy I would definitely talk up if you can get it around 0.4 to 0.45. But I really need Asia back because I need guys like, so for example, like I have Eduardo super rare. I could use that in my D3 gas lineup. I have a Cecina rare. I could use that in my D3 gas lineup. A lot of these guys I could run in D3 gas that are good, are really good options that I could run there. So like I really need Asia and America running really helps my global all-star lineups because I have a lot stronger options. Like I have Carlos Gil that I don't really want to run him in America tons. Similarly with like all the Asian guys, like I don't want to run a Hatanaka in Asia. I want to run him generally in global all-star.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense for sure. Yeah, I think the DNP complaints about Asia are more about the cards that people have bought than it is about the actual number of DNPs. Like I think you can, and this sounds weird, I think you can buy yourself out of DNPs, whether it's with like research or with ETH. But like there are enough guys on this list who play all the time that if you do get a DNP, it's like, well, it happens every so often. And I think people kind of overestimate how many DNPs they get because like you get two in 10 lineups and you're like, oh, I got DNPs everywhere, and it's like, well, you don't have them everywhere. And I think it's just like circumstantial how many you get in Asia. And I think there's just for us in the US and for a lot of Europeans, like I think just the language barrier is enough that you're just like, well, if somebody was suspended but you didn't look it up, then that's an edge for people who are willing to do that research, not necessarily learning Japanese or Korean, but there are ways to figure that out. And so it's just, you just have to work a little harder, but the prices are cheaper. And well, for not everybody, obviously you're not going to get Cecina cheap, but if you can find the guys who play a lot, then I think you're fine.
I think, so Looking for Food just said that the DNP complaint in Asia is lack of info. I don't think it's lack of info. I think it's lack of effort.
Yeah. I think you see the same thing in South America, though.
Yep. It's the same thing in any region. Like, it's the same thing with people that play Donnarumma. It's the same thing. Like, I will give the example, like DeMeo last year. At the beginning of the year when they had a lot of congestion, every single game that Frontel played, DeMeo started, then the next game he sat. They had that rotation, like, all throughout the beginning, like 4 months of the season. So like people would like DeMeo would come off like a 95 and then they would play again the next week or midweek and people would play DeMeo and he would start on the bench and people would be like, oh, I mean, he just had a big game. Like why? It's like they've ran the same rotation over and over again. It's very consistent. The fact that you aren't acknowledging that is you missing things.
Sure.
I think that Suzuki probably affects Ueda more, but actually the person that might be affected most is Everaldo. Everaldo might not be a locked-in starter for this season. But the nice thing about America and Asia, too, is so Asia and America, like neither forward situation in either region is the best. America's better than Asia, but neither is the best. American mids are really good. Asia mids are generally weak. The Asian mids are generally not as good. And then similarly, like America or MLS defenders are not as good, but the Asian defenders are really good. But like, I mean, looking through the midfielder list, like we've talked about him before, Osmar. The guy is 33. He plays center back. He plays every single game. He takes penalties. He just plows in 50, 60, 60, 70 type scores every single week. He's 0.17. Like you probably get him for less than 0.17. So like this is a guy that you can play every single week without worry and just run him. If he doesn't play and has a DNP, just don't play him till he plays again. Wait till he starts a game. Then once he starts a game, then play him again. It's just not hard to do that. But midfielders, like I really think Osmar is a good look. And I think that Japan and Asia in general is a place where you can get, you can just play it a lot cheaper than you can play. You can play Asia. You can get a team in Asia and America that legit can compete for 1 to 1.5 ETH.
Mm-hmm.
I
agree.
cannot do that during the European season.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I think.
Literally the beauty of All-Star right there is that you
Yeah.
can use your Japanese or Korean stack, or it doesn't even have to be a stack, but those players that cost significantly less, and they can outscore some of the European ones.
Yeah, looking for food. His mid is a really good card though, but I agree his defender is probably really would be an elite level card if he gets moved to mid. But yeah, like just looking through midfielders, like yeah, their mids aren't the best, but like you have like if Yoonbit Graham starts again, like 133, the dude's
please do.
Yeah, like he's a smasher. Like you have Sergi Samper, he's 0.137. Assuming he doesn't leave, which I mean, right now the European window's closed. He won't leave until the summer, probably at least. He's a smasher. You have like Osmar, who we just talked about, smasher. Like you have Shinjun Ho, who's a smasher. Now I'm not saying buy all these guys, but like I haven't looked up all the information on all of these guys to tell you whether or not they're locked in, whether or not they're leaving, whether or not there's issues with them. But there's just some really good options at midfield that is really really cheap. Yeah, like so Jin Ho just made captain of his team. L40's average 58.5.
Yep.
He has 2 DNPs in his last 40. No, 3. He has 3 DNPs in the last like year and a half. They were weird. I will say they were weird DNPs, but like the guy has a just fantastic all around, and it's a really good card. Like this guy is not much worse than guys that are like this is like he's basically a better version of Hani Mukhtar. Well, he's 0.2. Hani Mukhtar's 0.66. Why would you buy Hani Mukhtar over a guy like this? It's stuff I think people that don't go into Japan or Korea and don't go into Asia in general are really missing out on opportunities that are there for them to be taken.
Particularly for All-Star.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Completely agree with that.
And then, I mean, defenders, like we know who the elite defenders are. I will try to keep it relatively quick here, but like Kikuchi's,
yeah.
But like Kikuchi smashes. They're just some smashers. Like you have Kikuchi, Hatanaka, Yamani. Like these guys just absolutely eat. I think Eduardo's a great buy. I think Eduardo could be like a 70 average type player from Marinos.
Yeah,
although
he
they
looks
play a different style than they did previously. But he could smash there because he did what he did on Sagan Tosu, which is a much worse team than what Marinos is playing. Midweek utility. He takes some sets. Like he could take some set pieces and like I saw him score a goal off a set piece last year. It was a great free kick. Yeah. But like there are
rocket, wasn't it?
What's up?
It was a rocket, that free kick goal that he
got. Bomb. It was a really good free kick goal. But like you have guys like this. For some reason, Thiago Martins is still showing in Asia. I don't know why. Because he is showing in America on Sorare or on Sorare. So that's weird that he's showing. But like I actually saw rumors the other day of Tony Sunjic. He absolutely destroys. There was rumors he's going back to Japan, I believe. Or no.
He's in China.
Yeah, I think there was rumors that Sunjic was moving to Japan instead of China.
He's in China.
He's a smasher. Like he's an absolute smasher. He's 0.19. I think someone that's really good is Morishige from FC Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
He's older. He's 34, but dude's L40 is 57. He plays every game. The only games he like didn't play was off the red card, effectively. This is not like the best team in the region either, and he has some great all-around score games and some really strong games as well. So like you can get this guy for 0.1. This guy, if you get like 5 guys like this guy and throw them in over the summer, you're going to spend like 0.8. You're going to recoup all of that via like thresholds, much less you're going to win some cards because like these guys are legit decent players that can put. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Oh, Jonjic. Okay, you're right. It was Jonjic. That I did confuse them. It was Jonjic going to Cerezo, not Sunjic.
Still looked like fine scores.
Yeah. So like I think that there is definitely opportunities, and then goalkeepers in Asia, I think right now is very similar to that of America. Takawaka is like an ETH, but I think he's the best goalie in the summer. From what we saw from him last year, I think overall he is the best goalie in the summer. But like you're looking at probably 0.4. It looks like right now 0.4 is the like goalie floor, but like you could get Generally older goalies for around 0.4, but like you can get like Park Il-gu, who's probably worse because Eduardo left. But like, yeah, looking at Asia, like I think you're looking at 0.4 ish is generally going to be the cheapest you can get. I think someone that's good is Gonda. Get you international utility. He's around 0.6. I think S-Paul should be better this year as well. So there are just some options that you can find in Asia. The only thing with Asian goalies is they're generally quite old.
Yeah. But they play forever.
They do typically play significantly deep into their career as well. So that is very accurate.
Yeah. I think 37 is different than 33, but 33 is.
Yeah. And like you look like that. That's again why I say Takawaka is the best goalie in Asia. Like all the goalies in Asia, except for the couple U23 goalies, are like 34, 35. Takawaka is 25.
25,
and
yeah.
he was the best goalie in the region last summer. With no real signs of the fact that he would be worse, other than the fact that it's just goalie and it's so high variance. But
yeah.
The thing with Takawaka is he had a really good all-around score last year. Like if you look at the last 4 games of Takawaka's season, his average all-around was like 12, which is pretty strong. And he had some 20 to 15 to 20 point all-around games quite a bit. Like his AA score is really, really strong. In general. And if you look through like the last like 30 games of Takawaka, he had 1 game with a negative all-around score. That was it.
Yeah.
Which is for a goalie, like
for a goalie, that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, for a goalie, like that's fantastic. Like, I moved off of the rankings page. Let me go back there. But like basically what you're saying with him is you're never going to end up below 35 or 60. So like if they get a shutout, he's going to get you 60 plus. He's realistically going to get you like 70 plus.
70, yeah.
And if he concedes, he's going to get you like 45 plus, which is like if you're getting those results, that's fantastic. Yeah, Takawaka's L50 or L40 all around was 11.1, which is one of the best all around scores. Like you compare that with like a guy that people love of Langerak. Langerak's is like 6.8. So like there's a significant all around difference between them.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a ton of sense. They definitely seem more reliable, at least the upper tier, than MLS upper tier.
So what's your plan with Asia this summer? Because in the past you've obviously been interested.
Yeah, I'm just not interested still. The reason so basically what I'm doing is that the better, like last year I was using my better Asia cards in Asia, and it was just a mistake. So I'll just use them in All-Star now.
That's true. Because you did have a couple decent ones, if I remember correctly.
I had a few. Yeah, I mean, I just like fell into them. It wasn't like real sharp knowledge here.
Yeah. No, I mean, and to be fair, that's a lot of time if you win like cards in Global All-Star, like you could get Japanese cards. And like, especially speaking in the summer, you're very likely to get Japanese, Korean, or Asian cards in general in gas all summer. So like, there's a lot of times like you win a Kikuchi, you don't need to sell it. You can just run it right in your gas 3-lamp, 4-lamp, and hey, boom, you have the best defender there. So I think there's lots of good things. I'm excited. I will say I'm more excited about Asian America coming back than I was about Europe coming back.
Oh,
and
it's
not even as much of my teams are better in there because like I do have good teams elsewhere as well. But for me, I love waking up and checking Sofa and seeing how my teams did. I know you're going to say use SorareData for that, but I like just seeing like what the score is, and I like seeing like, oh, they got a 7.8. That's probably good. Let's see how they generate it. That's how I like to look at it. But also I like having entertainment all day. And currently speaking, the games end by 5 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
So by 5 p.m. Eastern, I have nothing else to do all day in terms of like watching it. So like being able to watch I really like waking up and looking through Asia and seeing how they did. Or sometimes like I wake up.
It might be still on sometimes.
I wake up really early on Saturdays. On Saturdays, I generally am up at like 6 because I have to do some work. So like there's times where I'll catch a Frontale or Marinos game or something, and I enjoy doing that. Also speaking, like I like having a MLS game at 6 p.m. on a Saturday and an MLS game at like 9 p.m. on a Sunday.
It's awesome.
It's great. So like I'm excited for that perspective of like it just encompasses the day a lot more.
Yeah, it's like the peak time right now.
Yes.
We all get excited. We have it all whenever we want. soccer on, it's on. So
Yep. Steven, generally speaking, so the way that I would say the platform breaks down is that Champion Europe is greater than U23, which is greater than Global, which is greater than Challenger, which is greater than America, which is greater than Asia. So if you're playing cards in Asia, you're playing them at the lowest value you can play them at because you can only win Asian cards.
Right.
So, like, and not to say like you can't win good cards, though. Like you can still win Kikuchis, Cecinas, Demayos, etc. But like, so like we just looked through the Asian options. There's no card worth more than 1.3 ETH in all of Asia. Similar with America, there's no card that you can win worth more than 1.2. So if you run your Asian players in global, you can win Haaland, Lewandowski, Neymar, all those guys. So, like, generally speaking, the way I always look at my cards and my lineups is there is a certain pecking order of value, and that's what I just gave was like that pecking order. So I'm not saying I won't do it. Like sometimes if I have a really strong Asian team and I have good options, like for example, like I have a full frontail stack, a full stack. Like I have a full D4 stack. I might run that in Asia D4 this week, despite poor options, because it just makes sense for me to run it there.
Yeah.
Or like I might just be like, I think I'd have a really good shot at winning a tier 0 in Asia, for example. So I'm going to be like, I'm going to run it there and try to win my 1 ETH card instead of throwing it in gas, where it's like, I'm probably not going to win. I'll probably finish like 40th for a tier 2, and I'll do it like that. But the strategy definitely needs to be thought out of where you run your cards, and each week is a different opportunity. Like if there's a week where there's not much Asia going, for example, this week, great example, Challenger Europe this week, there was like no games. There was the 2 Jupiler games, and then you have like the random Celtic and cards from like Scotland. That was it. So I won Glebov, the super rare, in Division 2 Challenger with like a super pedestrian score of like 290 points. But like I ran it there instead of global because there was a pretty good chance I could actually compete there. Whereas in like global, I couldn't compete. So like there's going to be weeks where you look and you're like, man, I can't really compete with this lineup here, but I might be able to compete with it in Asia, and then you'll run in Asia. So definitely it depends how you look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, I think it's just as long as you have the flexibility to, the All-Star gives us flexibility of using our Asia or whatever region cards there also. So it's just
yeah. Like your Gil, my expectation is that your Gil, you would expect to run it 100% of the time in global. However, the reality is you'll probably run it 75% of the time in global, and then you might run it some of the time in America because it makes more sense that week to run in America.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, and like I did it last season. Like I won some D2s because like I had Gil Super Rare, and like I just plopped Gil Super Rare in Division 2 America, and nobody ran their Gil Super Rare in Division 2 America, and you would just rip off 100, and I'd have them at cap, and boom, 150 points. I'm gonna win a reward there. So like, there's definitely some times where you're just like, hey, I want to win a reward over I want to try to win the best reward, because they're all worth something. So like, if I can guarantee myself that I'm gonna win a 0.3 ETH card, that might be better than like a 10% chance of winning a 1 ETH card. And you just have to decide each week what makes the most sense for you that given week.
Right. You use Gil to try to win Gil.
Exactly. You did. That's exactly what you tried to do. You try win Gil to try to win Gil. Yeah. How many Gils? All right. So here's a question. How many Gils or Cecinas would you have? Hypothetically speaking, tomorrow you win Gil rare. Are you selling it or are you holding it?
I'd probably hold it.
Okay, that's my point too. Okay, so next question. You win another Gil rare after that. What are you doing? Selling or holding?
It's like a third one?
Yes.
I think I sell it, but I could definitely keep it to play it in, so I'm basically playing, you know what? I probably keep it and play one each in both in All-Star and America D3 and then D4.
Bingo. That's what I would do. I would probably hold a second, sell a third for that exact reason. I would try to make sure my D3s are and both run a Gil in the event that it makes sense for me to do so. And if not, I could run them in D4.
I sell the third one for Cecina.
Yeah. And there's very few cards I would do this with. There's like, and they have to basically smash and be like a certain card. Like I did that with Depay, which I now actually though I would sell Depay if his value. I'm not going to sell him until his value goes back up. But like I think Gil's a card I would do that with. I think Cecina is a card I would do that with. There's some like Haaland, Mbappe types I would probably consider it. The issue is though is I'd probably sell the second one of that to get to get some ETH back in and redistribute. But like there are cards like Gil rare at 1 ETH. Let's say it's 1 ETH. I can't get another card worth that does what he does for 1 ETH.
No way.
So like knowing I have him, especially at the fact that like I can run him for 4 months of the year when all of Europe runs too, and the fact that he's better than everyone else. Like Gil's better than Cruz. Like he is. Like I would play Gil over Cruz.
I don't think he's that good.
I think
it's close, but I'm not sure they're.
Gil's L40 is 72. Is Cruz over 72?
He might be.
Cruz is they're the same player. They are effectively the same player. I can't get a Cruz for under what 3.5 ETH right now, probably. Yeah, so 3.5 ETH. So I can play Gil in America and challenge thing is I cannot even sniff replicating Gil from anybody at a realistic price point. I do think
that's correct.
Validity at his age too. Like I think Gil really likes America from what I can tell. And I think he's going to stay in MLS for a while. If he stays on the Revolution for 3 years, I know we talk about not wanting to look too far in the future, but like if Gil's on the Revolution for 3 years, like one of the most valuable cards on the platform to me because everyone else is like subject to move and get screwed or not be as good. Like if he just plants his ass on the Revolution for 3 years, you're just going to for a few years.
And it's obviously the case now, but the expectation is they stay good. Like they have Champions League, CONCACAF Champions League. Now you have midweek utility. So now you can use skill the same, well, I don't know if it's the same times if they match up, but like theoretically midweeks when Real Madrid's playing Champions League and everybody has Toni Kroos, you have the guy who happens to average more over 40 games.
It is next week. Like I can run Carlos. I can run Carlos Gil. There's a really good chance next week I run a Carlos Gil super rare in Division 3 All-Star with Kroos and Lewandowski and a defender that's good. Of a super rare and then goalie who gives a shit because it's goalie. But like that's a really good.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. No, literally going into the week, nobody has a better forward than me. No one has a better midfielder than me. No one has a better second midfielder than me. So like going into the week, I have the best possible lineup that anyone could realistically run and play within reason, obviously. But now that said, like there is also, I don't know who Madrid and Bayern play in the mid
just based off of,
because so Madrid plays PSG. That's obviously a much worse matchup than Getafe. And Bayern plays Salzburg. That's actually a good matchup for them. So like next week, midweek, right? So like I have
Gil plays some Haitian team.
Oh yeah, Gil plays a Haitian team where they're just gonna probably, knock on wood, just plow them. So like looking at next week, I can probably tell you with certainty I'm going to run Gil super rare. And the only reason I'm going to do that is so that I can also run the Cruz rare because I'm not going to run a bunch of rares and then be sort of screwed on the back end. So like, let me look at my lineup right now. I can tell you with pretty much certainty, I will most likely run next week in the midweek Gil super rare, Cruz rare, Lewandowski rare, captain probably Lewandowski rare over Cruz rare. And then I will probably run a super rare defender. Yeah. That is probably relatively good. I'm looking to who this would be. So actually what's funny, if I had this person, I would run their super Mickey Imani. I don't have a super rare though. I have his rare. But if I had his super rare, I would probably run a Mickey Imani super rare for that game week. And then I have a Alexander Callens against a Haitian team or whatever they're playing. I think they're playing Costa Rican team. So like that's probably an okay matchup. I just don't have a great matchup next week, unfortunately for me.
That's all right. Goalie doesn't matter.
No, I don't have a good defender matchup, which is unfortunate.
Oh, defender, yeah.
Yeah, but like, if I had a good defender matchup, like I might have to run like Callens in this lineup. So like these studs and then Callens.
Alexander Kynes and Tony Cruz.
I'm sure I have a goalie that's maybe I could run I'll run my Jan Mvogo super rare.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, right. No, I'm sure I have a good
short-lived.
Let's see. I have to have a rare goalie. Well, so the issue is, I guess I don't know who's going to play out of the Marseille guys because it could be either Mandanda or Lopez in Europa. Let's see. I have a Vandevort. I could just run Vandevort. Vandevort's a massive favorite, and his all-around is pretty good. They play Mechlin at
43 points.
Yep. Hey, 43 points. Probably plays just fine with that line, to be fair.
It does. All right. We've gone, really long. But, so it feels like we rushed Asia a little bit there because we had so much to say about MLS, but I feel like we prefaced that at the beginning. So thank you to everybody who has joined us live and all the comments in the chat. We really appreciate it. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting the like button below on the video. If you're catching the replay, the like works for you as well, so feel free to hit it. If for some reason you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. That would be greatly appreciated. You can also rate and review the podcast wherever you listen, whether it's on Spotify or Apple or Google or wherever. Rating and reviewing it is doing us a big favor. So thank you for those who have done it. And if you haven't, thank you in advance for doing it. We'll be back next week with some more strategy talk. If there's anything you'd like us to hit on specifically, you can contact me on Twitter at Andrew M. Laird. Sean is at PSUFans2. Also available in the Sorare Discord under those names. So, Sean, good luck on this game week, and I'll talk to you next week.